Hey everyone, it's Reverend Bill, and back at my regular studio. So we'll have the benefit of my cheat sheets uh, again. I'll have to get another monitor for my other place. I'll be doing most of my podcasts, I guess, from that new studio. So I'll definitely have to get another monitor for that. That's not a big deal. Certainly not a money issue, more of a laziness issue, I think. But yeah, we got a few things to talk about. Um, you know, Comey's been indicted, I guess, which I think is probably justifiable. There's a lot of people that are probably getting away with things that may not be called to the mat. I mean, I wasn't sure whether he was going to be called out or not. I certainly think most fair people know that he was hiding some things. And we were wondering whether he was going to get away with it or not. Um, I think he may have slid, but Trump obviously called out Pam. And whether she was actually going to go through with it or not, I don't know. But I think it's fair that he was indicted. He certainly knew that a lot of things that he was that Trump was being accused of was false, and he was following through on it. It shouldn't have been pursued. So I think that's justifiable. Anyway, so that's that. So yeah, that I think that's just justified, and that's good. And yeah, and I think Charlie Kirk's widow is showing a lot of strength that I know she had, and good for her. She made an appearance on the show, and she's going to need a lot of strength to get through this tough time. She lost a really good man, and I'm glad to see she's showing that she's going to pull through. So it's going to be tough on her. But anyway, enough about that. Let's open up the cheat sheets and get our show going. We got some things to cover here. Let's see. Hmm. And where should we start? But last night, unfortunately, violence erupted, and it did not come from the liberals for a change. But it was important, I guess, that we are reminded that violence comes from all sides. We did not expect it to come from uh, PTSD, which was one of two vicious attacks that came out of seemingly nowhere. But you know, it's hard to say that this was avoidable. I'm sure there are some veterans that say that better care probably maybe could have avoided this. I don't know. I'm not a veteran. I've never been to war, not this kind of war anyway. So I can't speak to the agony and pain and suffering these guys have been through. But anyway, unfortunately, apparently this guy has snapped. He'd been on the radar. I guess there were some signs. There was a lot of lawsuits that he opened up, and he had a history of it looks like some psychotic episode where he was accusing people of trying to do dastardly things to him. He went on a CMT Music Award date with Kelly Pickler, which sounded like quite the boon for him. And then he tried to sue her, saying that she tried to poison him by tainting his Jim Beam whiskey, and that was one of numerous, um, I guess, litigious actions he's taken, none of which were given any merit. Um, I just quickly looked through them. Um, I didn't. They seemed to be very many and all equally without merit. So I didn't spend a lot of time on them. But he obviously seemed to have been very troubled for a long time. Now, should that have been a warning sign to look deeper? I don't know. Um, to be honest with you, I don't know the system. There could be hundreds of guys that have just as many frivolous lawsuits out there. I couldn't speak to that. Um, if you want to pull this guy's record out and look, and yeah, it would stand out. But then again, how many other people have the exact same situation? I don't know. So again, I can't speak to that. In and of itself, it would look alarming to me, but I don't know. What does look bad is the fact that this guy looks like he was going through an awful lot um, of pain, and unfortunately, it looked like he lost it, and he took good people down with him. 3 dead, 8 injured. Those 3 we know that are dead. Those 8 injured, we don't know about them. Um, that's the thing that you always think about. The 3 dead, those are the ones that you focus in on stories like that. The 8 injured, you kind of dismiss them, but you don't know, how injured are they? Are they crippled for life? Or, you kind of dismiss those and concentrate on the dead people. But we kind of forget about those 8 injured. But those 8 injured could be, like I said, paralyzed for life. And they could be the ones that are really suffering. I don't know. My prayers are with those 8. Um, I don't know. So that was tragic. But the scary thing was that before this story was really hashed out, I was waiting for the ID to come out of this guy. I did hear all kinds of rumors. I did hear his name before most people did because it's getting a little late, because I was staying up late to see if I can find that out. But before his identity was confirmed, we got hit with another one, and believe it or not, this grabbed the headlines before the confirmation of the idea of the other one was even made solid, really. And then this tragedy, very similar, really. Um, Another veteran, and this man uh, drove into a church, killed 2, and then set it on fire. Now, I heard that there might have been some explosives. I'm not real sure how the blaze got going, but it did get going. And this man was also a veteran who had a history of mental illness, Thomas Jacob Sanford. Um, the previous gentleman, I should probably mention that he changed his name. It was Nigel Edge, and he changed his name to, oh no, he changed his name from Sean, what is it? Debonnaise, Debonnaise, sure, I said Debonnaise, not French, Debonnaise, I'm sorry, but I can do Nigel Edge. Sean Debonnaise, I apologize. But anyway, Nigel Edge I can say. But I guess with his lawsuits, he changed it to Nigel Edge. I don't know why. He said because of the lawsuits, so maybe publicity. I don't know. But this man, I can say his name too, Thomas Jacob Sanford. But yeah, he drove into church, killed 2, and set the church on fire. He got killed in a shootout with police. I believe the response was very quick from the policemen that got there. I read something like 30 seconds for him to show up on site, and 8 minutes um, well, I'm trying to think of a nice way to kill the gunman. disarm him, to disengage the shooter, active shooter. What it comes down to is it took him 8 minutes to kill the gunman. So that was very, very reactive of the policeman. So cheers to him. But yeah, no, that was a very responsive, excellent. But so yeah, I find it coincidental to veteran warmen attacks so closely associated. Coincidental, I guess. I don't know, or not. I don't know. But again, not liberal killings, so that's good. But we have to remember that there's other evils in the world, and this world's getting very violent. And I will say, this has got me rethinking. As I mentioned in earlier ones, I mean, the irony is, many years ago, I was always conservative, but I was on the fence about the gun thing. And I'm not on the fence anymore. I'm thinking about going out and getting my own gun. I'm beginning to see the wisdom of. Now the thing is about these two shootings. I don't think if I had a gun and I was there, I would make a difference. No matter how good a shot I am. On the boat. I mean, I don't think it would make a difference if everyone had a gun on that by the time the guy shot and took off in his boat. I don't think you'd be able to take it out and hit a moving target. I don't really know much about shooting at all, but I wouldn't think at all you would be able to hit a moving target like that. The damage would be done. And on this situation in a church, if you were inclined to bring a gun to church, I would believe you probably wouldn't be. But I don't. Even if you would be, I mean, driving a truck into a church and setting it on fire, I would tend to think you probably wouldn't be able to use it then even. And why would you bring a gun to church? I would just think that would be. I mean, as a minister, I just wouldn't think I would bring a gun to church. I don't know, but so I'm not sure a gun would help in these situations. But I am beginning to think the world's getting to be very dangerous. I'm pretty handy with a knife and swords with my martial arts training, but I don't think, I'm beginning to think, I don't think, carrying a sword around is impractical. And my skills with the knife would be very limited, I think, in most situations where guns are involved. So I don't know. It's getting to be a very violent world out there. So I think I'm going to have to go out there and get myself a Glock and learn how to use it. I certainly don't want to hurt anybody, but then there's the thing about protecting me and my wife. I also don't want to be a victim, So I don't know. That's the way I'm thinking about things. And every day goes by, I'm finding more reason that I would think I would need to get myself a gun. That's the way it is, unfortunately. Anyway, now next one here is about these protests. Let's talk about these protests. These ICE agents, they're going in, they're meeting these ridiculous protests, and you wonder, where are these people coming from? Where are these people? Well, I've actually done some homework in case you guys didn't know this. These clowns are getting paid. These are full-time jobs for a lot of these people. These people, the more outrageous they are and the more dangerous situations they get themselves into, the more they get paid. Now, if you think they're doing them because they're committed, no, they're getting paid. And they're getting paid by certain companies. And some of them are doing it legally, and a lot are doing it illegally. And we're going to talk about this now. Because if you think these are committed people that are doing this out of the goodness of their heart. Like, for example, I'm doing these podcasts because I believe in Jesus and I believe in causes. Okay, I'm not getting paid for this, nor am I asking money from anybody. I'm doing this out of my time. I paid for all this. This is a person who's committed to doing what they want to do. These people are getting paid for doing what they're doing. They're getting paid somewhere in the vicinity of 100 to 400 or 300 and 400, something along those lines per day. I hear different numbers to get paid for their doing it. And their money are getting paid depending on how they're dressed, where they're going, and what they're doing. So, like, if they're going to doing, if depending on what they're, where they're going, how they're doing, everything's being designed, including their signage, their costumes, and where they're going, depending on, like I said, the danger, their who they're going up against, everything, depending on what they're doing, they're getting paid for it. Okay, now let's talk about who's paying them. Okay. This is, by the way, is this just talking about them going to Portland now because that's where he's sending them to. These are the organizations that are paying them. Some of these organizations are legitimate and they can pay them if they're playing by the rules. The question is, are they playing by the rules? Maybe, maybe not. Are these legit? Maybe, maybe not. All right, the first one, the Coalition of Humane Immigrant Rights. They were given $34 million per year in government grants. Now, these grants are allowed, provided that they stay within the agreement. Are they? Who knows? Another one is the Central American Resource Center, which also receives federal and state grants and private funding. There's also the Million Voter Project, which also supports anti-ICE protests. And there are Operation Healthy Hearts, Mutual Aid Los Angeles Network. Now these are giving protective gear and logistical support for protesters. Why are they giving protective gear if it's peaceful? That's my question. So they're giving money and protective gear, but the idea is a peaceful protest. Why do they need protective gear? Now, all these money that they're giving, all the 34 million and all the other, is for peaceful protest, but they're also supplying them with protective gear. Now, there are other private groups, Soros, who are giving them money also, that are giving them financial aid, resources, logistical information, disruptive actions, etc. Let's see. In other words, there's a whole bunch of private organizations, is what I'm getting at here, that have their own agendas, that are giving them orders, they're giving them signage, they're telling them what the sign should say, all for the sake of peaceful protests with protective gear. The FBI and Congress, for what it's worth, have launched investigations trying to determine exactly how peaceful this stuff really is. But the point is, these people are doing this as a full-time job. And they're getting hundreds of dollars a day to follow around the protests and doing it. These aren't your neighborhood people coming out and protesting. These people are getting bussed around, and they're professional protesters. So, and they're getting paid very, very well. In some multiple nonprofit advocacy groups with government and private funding have been connected to organizing or supporting anti-ICE protests. The detail about who is paying them is under investigation. No one really knows who's shelling out the bucks. All they know is that these people are being paid professionally to protest. So they're getting dressed up like a bunch of fools going around causing problems with protective gear. Um, and they're protesting places they don't even belong to. They're professional protesters. So they're not caring people. They're being paid to protest legally because it's the First Amendment, but they're protesting because they're getting paid. It is illegal if people are getting paid to hire to break the law during protests, such as engaging in violence or vandalism or other criminal activity, which is what they're doing. So, anyway, now here are the problems that basically it's a problem. This is really what the problems are. Private people are basically dictating policy. So Soros and company can basically pay these people to force the United States to do what he wants, as can foreign governments and hostile regimes. They can now pay people to basically stand around protesting, acting like American voters. Well, they are American voters, right? But they're being paid by foreign nations to force policy and U.S. government because they're getting paid to protest as Americans, but they're really representing foreign hostile governments. They're drowning out true American citizens' grassroots efforts, and they're getting larger groups that incite riots and violence and the crossing the line. So essentially, these are foreign nations or groups like Soros who are pretending they're having American citizens acting on their behalfs when they're really foreign nations and foreign corporations like Soros or private citizens forcing the United States to act on their behalf. So that's what basically is going on about this. So when you see all these people protesting, don't think they're American people. They're paid actors for foreign nations and private companies or private citizens. All right, let's take this other one. Lola. I have no idea who this woman is. She is a TikTok star. No idea who she is. She's a TikTok star that somehow got notoriety to go out and do a concert. And I don't know if she's talented or not. I don't know anything about her. The only thing I know about her is that she somehow was important enough to get on the New York Post, which I use a lot of my news on this from that. And I just happened to watch her collapse on the stage. She had a lot of course, she's Gen Z, so she's got a lot of mental things that oh my God, that Gen Z. She's got a lot of mental things going around. She's just had so many things going on, and I guess during the show she collapsed. I looked at that and. I've never seen such a controlled collapse in my entire life. I'm a minister, but I mean, I've been in a lot of fights. And I'll tell you, I'll still, to this day, I'll still say, I want to see, I want to see another fighter. I used to fight, on the streets and stuff when I was younger in Brockton and stuff. And I will still say nonsense until I find another fighter that watches that Will Smith, Chris Rock, tell me that Chris Rock, that was a real punch. Any real fighter cannot tell me that was a real punch Chris Rock tell. The reaction of Chris Rock was so fake. Anyone who's really been hit by a punch cannot look at Chris Rock and tell me that punch is real. That reaction was completely wrong. Anyone who's been hit by a punch cannot tell me that was a real punch because Chris Rock's reactions were all wrong from anybody who's ever been hit by a punch. And until I find another fighter who can look at that going, yeah, that looks right to me, I will not believe it. Because I've been hit enough and I've hit enough people to tell you that there's no way Chris Rock got hit because he would not have reacted that way. Anyway, getting off that, same thing here. There is no way she collapsed. That is a controlled fall. Okay. First of all, you never, if you really collapse, you never take care of your head. She's got her head is like lifting up. That's controlled fall. Another thing is her hands go backwards, okay, when she's falling. I mean, that's a controlled fall. I have fallen enough times. You never take care of your head. Usually you bang your head off the ground, okay? You get concussion if you're not careful. That is a controlled fall. She drops the microphone. She lifts her head up and she puts her arms back. That's a controlled fall. I know nothing about this woman. I'm glad she didn't hurt herself when she fell, but that is not a collapse. No, no way. No, that's a controlled fall. And I hope she's got a long, happy career. I'm sure she's a very nice person. I wish her well in everything that she does, and God bless her. But don't tell me that's a real collapse. And I don't know anything about her. I really don't. I'm just saying, don't tell me that's a collapse. That's not a collapse. I don't. So that's it. Lola Young, I wish you the well. Wish you well. God bless you, honey. You didn't collapse. That's all I want to say about that. All right, what else we got going here? Oh, yes. This does have me concerned. This is getting worldwide now. Our president and his beautiful wife, they can't go to the UN without people stopping the escalator. And then he goes to give a speech and the teleprompter breaks. And then he finally is reading from a text, and I guess the sound went off in certain areas. It's got me concerned in a couple of levels. First of all, it's childish. And this is not the United States. This is not going global. This is the UN. And it's secondly showing me that the world is not taking care of business. And it makes me think, if they're doing this kind of nonsense, how good is their security? So, number one, this is junior high crap that we're dealing with. It's total lack of professionalism. And on a worse level, it makes me think they're not taking care of business. How is their security? With everything that's going on, I'm getting very concerned about the president's security. The world seems to be spiraling out of control, and I've got to believe our president needs to be safe. And I'm getting really concerned about the competency of the world in general. It does not seem like the world is doing their job. And I need to feel that the president's safe if he goes to the UN, and I just don't feel that confidence anymore. I'm finding out that there was 254, plainclothes FBI agents. Yeah, we found that out. 254 plainclothes FBI agents that were there on January 6th. Were they instigating the riots? Were they a part of it? Did they cause the January 6th riots? Why, if they weren't, why didn't they do something? Why were they there? Were they instigating it? I think we need to look into that. And they weren't instigating it. Why were they there? Why didn't they stop it? That needs to be looked at very carefully, because I think they were instigating it. And if they were, that makes a whole another investigation necessary. So yeah, I think there's a lot of incompetency, to say the least, if not corruption. So I think we do need to look at things very, very closely coming up. So anyway, moving along, it's getting kind of late. I got a couple other things I want to go over. One last thing. There is a myth, and this was actually brought up on the Post and editorial, and I probably should have gotten the guy's name, and I apologize that I didn't, but it was an editorial on the New York Post that I thought was a very good point, and it is that there is a myth that Christian evangelicals are the heavy-handed people that are going around, and it's happened a lot in history, in movies and books. I'm just thinking of one funny example in Footloose. No dancing, but no, it does happen a lot, and I find that to be. And he brought it up in the New York Post, so it's not my original idea, but I think it's a good one to be brought up. Is that we're not the heavy-handed ones. We will tell you the way things are. I know I was talking to my wife about this too. My wife likes to go around giving out Bibles at the airport too, and we're both very clear about what we think and our beliefs. I think Charlie Kirk was too, and that might got him in a lot of trouble as well. But we're very clear in what we think, and what we'll talk to about it and what the Bible says. We don't hedge our beliefs. We'll say homosexuality, for example, is a sin. I was talking to AI about this the other day, by the way, and AI was saying that his believe it or not, he was talking about what he wasn't saying his beliefs, but the way that he understands it is homosexuality is a sin. It was kind of interesting he said this, but his understanding of Christianity is, although it's a sin, that he thinks Jesus will forgive it. And I said, I don't agree at all. I've talked to Jesus, which I have. I think I've mentioned that to you, and I'm not ashamed to admit that I talked to Jesus. And Jesus was very clear that it won't be forgiven. And that's truly what I believe. It will not be forgiven. It is a sin. It's in the Bible all the way through the Bible. Now, that does not mean that I've got any hostility towards gay people. I'm looking forward to one day soon of having a brick and mortar church. And I would welcome gay people there to preach, and I'll pray with them. It doesn't mean that that I think that their lifestyle that they choose is not sinful. It is, and I will pray with them, and I will tell them that their lifestyle is sinful. But that doesn't mean that I condemn them, or I hate them, or I begrudge them. But I cannot tell them something that I know not to be true. That's in the Bible. So I have no animosity towards them. But my faith says it is a sin. And it is a sin, but that doesn't mean that I'm hostile or I have any hatred towards them. It's just my belief. So and if there's any idea that Christianity holds any hatred towards people that act in a way contrary to our beliefs, no, we believe what we believe, but we don't. There's no disgust or hatred toward people that act contrary to what we believe. We pray for them, and we hope one day they see the light and come over, and we will be there for them if they decide to. But if they don't, that's okay. We're not out to, this is not the Spanish Crusades where we go out and, it's like, love Jesus or we kill you. That's not us. That's no. We pray for you, and that's just who we are. But there's no anger or hatred or anything like that in true Christianity. Like I said, we have our ways, and we believe what we believe, and if people don't agree with that, we still welcome you into the church, and we pray for you. But there's no hatred or anger or resentment towards you at all. And I think that's what people need to understand is, there's no animosity or bitterness here in the least. We're all here just trying to get by. And our belief system is our belief system, and we'd love you to join us. But if not, okay, well, good luck. And like I said, we'll pray for you, and hopefully one day you'll join us. But there's no deep-seated animosity or hatred in the Christianity at all. At least not not where I sit. So anyway, but that's important. I think Christianity is a religion of love, and it's not one of bitterness or hate. So all right, well that's all I got today. Um, so hope you enjoyed it. And then if you did, please like, share, and subscribe. And if you didn't, come back next time. I'll try a little harder then. Um, so have a great night, and I will talk to you later. Bye.